1811 4000। यही कंज्यूमर हेल्पलाइन।
जागो ग्राहक जागो।
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Center Stage. I'm Rahul Kamal. Tonight we tell you the story of a man in Kolkata who was driven to suicide by loan sharks who got after his life because he failed to pay 2 installments of his loan. It isn't an overzealous private bank that is to blame for Manbendra Mondal's death, but the biggest bank in the country, the Nationalized State Bank of India. On the show tonight, banks blatantly violate Supreme Court guidelines and use all sorts of unscrupulous means to recover their loan money. But what can customers do? What options do we have? And what can be done to prevent the banks from going overboard? "40-year-old transporter Manbendra Mondal was driven to suicide after SBI's loan recovery agents threatened and abused him publicly and then humiliated him in front of his family members in his house in Belgatia. Mondal's fault? He failed to pay the last 2 installments of a loan of 11 lakh rupees that he had taken to set up a transport business.
This house in Belgatia in Kolkata is in the news for tragic reasons. Manbendra's suicide has shattered the Mondal family. His wife is still in a state of shock. His daughter has been moved to a relative's house. Manbendra had taken 11 lakh rupees loan from the SBI's Shalimar branch to buy a new truck and has made all his payments on time but for the last 2. That's when his problems started. People claiming they were from the bank security staff started threatening him.
वो दिया है 1,90,000 रुपया, ठीक है। उसका बाद बैंक से उसको आया एक आदमी, बोला नहीं हम लोग बैंक आदमी है। पहले जो दिन आया हमारा बहुआ को बोला है जो मनबेंद्र मंडल कहाँ है, वो बोलता है हम तो जानता नहीं, फॉर्म पे होगा ना आसपास में होगा। उसको बोला ठीक है मोबाइल नंबर दीजिए, तो मोबाइल नंबर दे दिया।
The threats became even more diabolical over the last 3 days. The men said they would harm his family members. Manbendra's family members alleged that the youths even tried to push him inside a car and take him away, but Manbendra managed to free himself. Finally, the humiliation became too much.
वहाँ पर मोड़ में वहाँ पर एक मांसा का दुकान है, उसको पूछा मनबेंद्र मंडल कहाँ है, पंप में था, उसको बुलाया, देखता इंडिया का गाड़ी में आया, दोनों आदमी उसको उठा लिया। वहाँ पर आध घंटा से 45 मिनट की बातचीत हुआ, तो स्टार्ट से उठा के बात किया, लोग जानता नहीं, जब निकाला है देखता है भाई सारा गंभीर है।
Neighbors and relatives remember Manbendra as a well-meaning, honest man who would never hurt a fly nor cheat anybody. Shell-shocked neighbors are aghast at the turn of events.
हमको मालूम होता है वो लोग ऐसा कुछ बात बोला है जो उसका इस चीज में लगा, उसको वो थाना में लेके जाएगा बोला है, केस करेगा। वही आदमी कौन है हम देखा नहीं है, लेकिन उसका मोबाइल नंबर मना से हमको मिला है।
The Tala police have taken over the case. Manbendra's body has been sent for post-mortem. Police say Manbendra was depressed as he was going through a financial crisis.
ये financial problem ছিল, और कोई कुछ तो नहीं पता।
क्या तरीके का मतलब कुछ लोन का या फिर
वो तो नहीं, कल तो डिप्रेस था, घर का लोग भी डिप्रेस था, इसलिए भी नहीं बता सकता, बिजी था बॉडी लेने देने में, तब तो हम कांटेक्ट नहीं किए।
Headlines today found out that a slip of paper was found in Manbendra's pocket. It had the name of a man called S.K. Chatterjee and his cell number. Hopefully armed with this information, the police will be able to crack the case. With Avijit Nandi Muzumdar in Kolkata, Aruna Bose, Headlines Today.
State Bank of India has finally reacted to the death of Manbendra Mondal. While the bank decided to offer its condolences, it did not apologize for Mondal's death. It also said that the bank does not indulge in such practices. A senior official of the bank refused to believe that Mondal was provoked to take his own life.
First of all, we are sorry that Mr. Mondal is no more, and we convey our condolences to his family. Mr. Mondal had taken a loan for a truck sometime in September 2005. And payments on that were scheduled to start in April 2006. for various reasons he could not adhere to the payment schedules, as a result of which the account became what we term in banking technology NPAs.
People in Kolkata are shocked by the suicide of Manbendra Mondal. What has really shocked them is the fact that while they've often heard of private banks like ICICI and HDFC resorting to strong arm tactics, no one ever expected a nationalized bank like the State Bank of India to stoop this low. While SBI tries its best to wash off the stain, Mondal's plight has stirred the conscience of ordinary Kolkatans. Manbendra Mondal's neighbours have reacted with horror, and there is resentment amongst those paying hefty EMIs where the banks are overreaching their brief.
No, money has become such a bad thing, and everywhere there is a business outlook that which bank is big or which bank is small, that is not the factor. The factor is that whether I am getting a business or not. And by doing this, they are also down level their morals are like that. Business, they are mixing business emotions with business, and so they everywhere. This is the age of professionalism. So whatever may they brag down, whatever may they brand name, whether it is SBI or ICICI or HDFC, business is the ultimate bottom line.
We can't encourage, you go and threaten somebody. There is a law in place, there is a system in place in a country, and we should follow to recover the loan the way we want to.
Not expected from SBI to do such a thing. In a manner that somebody commits suicide. Human life is more important than money is.
Alright, let's now get a perspective from Kolkata. Kolkata Bureau Chief Abhijit Nandi Majumdar now joins us on the line. He's been speaking to members of the family through the day, also getting a sense of reactions on the street in Kolkata. And we have with us in the studio Bijon Mishra. He's the Executive Director of Consumer Voice. They've been doing a lot of work on loan recovery agents and the plight of customers. But before that, let me go across to Abhijit. Abhijit, you've been speaking to the family. Where are they intending to take the case? How do they intend to fight their battle?
The family was very clear in saying that they have complained to the police and they expect the police to take some kind of an action. But when we went to the police officers, they mentioned that they have sent the body for post-mortem and they haven't received any specific complaint against the SBI. The entire thing is now twinned and getting weaved into these bureaucratic and paper hassles. Now one question that comes very uppermost in my mind, I've been tracking this story, I've spoken to everybody, I have tried and dig deep into it, and I found out that there was a small little note which was recovered by the family and neighbors from Manabendra Mondal's shirt, which indicated that there's a name of a person called Mr. S.K. Chatterjee and his mobile number was there. Now this Mr. Chatterjee led a bunch of thugs who went and apparently allegedly threatened and abused Mondal, which drove him to suicide. Now who is this Mr. Chatterjee? He produced some kind of an identity card and some kind of documents to show Mondal that he represents the SBI. Now who is this Mr. Chatterjee? What locus standi does he have? And did he really threaten Mr. Mondal? We did not have, throughout the day I spoke to several SBI officers, Shalimar branch, senior officers, PRO, even the Chief General Manager of the State Bank of India. He refused to identify this chap, he refused to mention who is he and what locus standi he had in going ahead and threatening Mondal. And why did he do it? And on top of that, who is he?
Alright, Abhijit, hang in there. Bijon, this is a case which has shocked everybody. Receiving such calls, being publicly humiliated is something which drove Manbendra Mondal to his death. What can the family really do? Because S.K. Chatterjee, for all you know, might be a fictitious name. The bank is saying they did not authorize anybody to do all that the agents actually did. What can the family do now?
No, you see, the point is that the banks will never keep any evidence of this sort, and the only evidence we have is the family giving a kind of a statement to the police saying that he went through a mental trauma which was due to the pressure from the bank in terms of recovery. And lately we have been observing this and we have been bringing it to the notice of several government officials and also the RBI, the regulator, on these issues, and we have even gone up to the Supreme Court to get a verdict from the court that the bank is not supposed to use these tactics. These are absolutely wrong and illegal, and we feel that this is a clear-cut case of murder where you don't give an opportunity to the consumer to represent their case, because there can always be a default when you take a loan. It's not necessary that somebody would be able to pay back the loan on time every time.
Sure.
But that's why there's a legal provision that you give an opportunity and you listen that person out, and then give them an opportunity to find out an easy and a comfortable way of repayment when they are in problem. But you never go and pressurize people, which has been happening lately in our country.
Sure.
And our regulator is doing least about these issues, and they should intervene right away now.
People, when they're in business, can run into tough times. That's when they want their banks to support them. But clearly, banks do not seem to be in a pliant mood. They're going after the customer. And what the banks keep saying is that the customer has no proof that somebody actually called up and said nasty things. So what Headlines Today did was record a telephonic conversation between the agent of a bank and also the customer. So that we actually have the agent calling up the customer, and we'll give you a sense of what the agent actually said. You'll be shocked by what you hear. That's coming up on Center Stage on the other side of this short commercial break. Stay tuned. On Center Stage tonight, we're talking about how overzealous banks like SBI are driving people to commit suicide. Their loan recovery agents get after the life of people who do not manage to pay EMIs for whatever reason, actually make their life miserable. One such man, Monbendra Model, was actually driven to suicide in Kolkata. What the banks keep saying is that there is no proof that any agent actually called up and said all of what the victims' families actually allege that those agents did. So what we did was actually record one such conversation. Let's cut across to Surat. Surat resident Satinder Singh acquired a credit card from the State Bank of India 2 years ago. But what played out soon after sent a shiver down his spine. He was threatened on the phone, repeatedly abused and warned of dire consequences. A hapless Satinder to recording one such conversation. This tape was handed over to Headlines Today. This is what the tape contained.
सूरत में होता ना, हाँ, मैं तुझे वही मारता, तो मैं वही मारता तुझे, हाँ, वही मारता मैं तुझे सूरत में होता था। मैं तो आ जाना इधर, धंधा करते हैं हम तो, कस्टमरों में पैसे रुके हुए हैं थोड़े से, हाँ, मैं मेरी बहन सस्ती हो लिया है, लड़की को धंधे पर लगाऊंगा, ये थोड़ी है अभी लड़की, इनको धंधे पर लगाना चाह रहा हूँ मैं। मेरा भाई बोल रहा था पीछे, अच्छा, स्मार्ट की सर्जरी करवा के लाऊंगा यार, उसको भी लगाना है धंधे पे, मेरा भाई बोल रहा था।
This is not the voice of any underworld don, but it is the voice of a loan recovery agent who, without any fear of the law, blatantly abused Satinder and his family members. Satinder Singh had applied for a credit card from SBI 2 years back. He claims he had used this card initially and had also made the payments on time. Then suddenly the bank statement stopped coming, and instead he was handed a 18,000 rupees bill. He asked for a statement from the bank, but the bank refused. After some time he was again handed a bill, this time 40,000 rupees. Satinder was in complete shock. He again asked for a statement from the bank, but that too was never given. This is when he started getting threatening calls from the recovery agents working allegedly at the behest of the bank.
फिर कोई स्टेटमेंट मुझे आया नहीं। उसके बाद उनका 2 दिन बाद मेरे घर पे फ़ोन आया और उन्होंने संजय लाकड़ा ने बहुत ख़राब तरह से और गंदी गंदी गालियाँ मुझे मेरे घर वालों को दी। जब मैं घर पे आया शाम को मुझे मालूम पड़ा कि ऐसे इसी बात हुई करके, तो मैंने जब फ़ोन उनको सामने से लगाया तो उन्होंने घर पे तो दी मुझे भी गालियाँ सामने से, उन्होंने बहुत ख़राब गालियाँ दी जो मैं आपको भी बता नहीं सकता हूँ कितनी गंदी गालियाँ दी। उसके बाद फिर मैंने उनका रिकॉर्डिंग कर लिया और उनकी सारी बातें रिकॉर्ड की और उन्होंने मारने की मुझे धमकी भी दी, बोली अगर आप दिल्ली में होते तो मैं आपको मारता था, आपको यहाँ पे ही आपको पता चल जाता था।
Finding himself helpless, Satinder decided to record the conversations.
मैंने मेरी तरफ से सेटलमेंट करवाया ही नहीं था और तो आपकी कंपनी ने बोला कि इतने रुपए का आपका सेटलमेंट किया गया है करके, इतने सेटलमेंट मैंने ही फोन किया था आपको। हाँ, मैंने फोन किया था, वो 25,189 रुपए में सेटलमेंट हो रहा है, आपका लेटर निकलवा के पेमेंट कब दोगे? बोले मैं अभी बाहर हूँ, 15 तारीख को पेमेंट करवा दूंगा मैं। बोला कि हाँ मैं करवाऊंगा, मैं बाहर हूँ यार, कल आ रहा हूँ, कल करवा रहा हूँ। तो मैंने पूरे दिन अगले दिन पूरे दिन फोन किया आपको, आप काटते रहे मंडे को फोन। ठीक है, और उनके लिए बात का नंबर ही कटवा किया। अच्छा, कल फोन कौन किया था? मैंने किया था, मैंने तो अभी किया था, तेरी माँ के पास भी किया था, सामने शैलेंद्र के पास भी किया था और तेरे भाई के पास भी किया। तभी किया था, तेरे पास अभी उसका फोन आया होगा जब उसने मेरे पास फोन किया है। तो गाली गलौज कौन किया है? मैंने। क्यों गाली दिया? हाँ, मैंने बोला कि तो मैं ऑथराइज पर्सन हूँ। ऑथराइज पर्सन है क्या? मैं, तेरा पूरा नाम क्या है? संजय लाकड़ा। संजय लाड़का। हाँ, अच्छा, कहाँ पे है तेरी ऑफिस? कहाँ पे है? कहाँ पे है? एड्रेस बता ना जरा मेरे को खाली। D7 है? D7 हाँ, आगे जनकपुरी आगे कम्युनिटी सेंटर है? कम्युनिटी सेंटर। अच्छा, ऑफिस का नाम क्या है? SBI। अच्छा, SBI लीगल सेल।
Satinder Singh finally filed a police case. The bank in question also apologized once it learned that its conversation has been recorded and has been handed over to our sister channel Aaj Tak. Subsequently, they said they had also sacked the recovery agent who abused Satinder Singh. There are clear laws barring credit card companies from harassing customers, but obviously no one's listening. With Pinak Shukla in Surat, Pritobhadra Chatterjee, Headlines Today.
The beeps you heard in that conversation were expletives that we blanked out because the content wasn't worth going on air. But what you did hear was that the man threatens to force his daughter into prostitution, says, "I will kill you if you were in Surat." Surely, even if somebody misses a payment or two, this is not the sort of treatment they deserve.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in fact, I would appeal to the consumers also that they shouldn't get into a conversation. Everything has to be in writing. If they don't get it in writing from the bank, they need not worry. So they must insist on a written kind of a document from the bank in terms of repayment. And they should not get into the clutches of these agents because they are getting hefty commissions from the bank to do these kind of
What do you do if these 5 or 6 really burly people turn up, some with hockey sticks, some with chains, and actually threaten you and humiliate you publicly?
No, if they do that, then you definitely have to seek help of the police. You have to right away seek help of the police and make sure that these guys are exposed. But the issue is that the consumers must also know that they shouldn't get panicky. Now, poor Mandal, he got panicked. He was literally, he went into a depression which must have caused him to commit suicide. Now, they should be helped out in terms of, we have helplines now where the consumers can call in, 25 or 24/7. I mean, the whole idea is that if you are in trouble, you should be able to call up. And most of the banks 24/7, they don't work. You just can't, you are not able to sort of build a contact or conversation when you're in trouble because you never get them through.
Alright, so the big question then is, what can you do if you're receiving such calls? Because skipping an EMI might happen to anybody. It could happen to me, it can happen to you. What are the legal options if the banks begin harassing you? In late July this year, the Supreme Court said that banks cannot employ force to recover loans. All that you've seen banks do through this show and even otherwise is actually illegal. The court refused to stay an order of the Consumer Forum directing ABN AMRO Bank to pay rupees 71,223 to a woman whose vehicle was allegedly forcibly seized by the bank. Yet it seems that the Apex Court's words are falling on deaf ears.
On July 27, the Supreme Court came down heavily on banks and financial institutions employing musclemen and gundas for making recoveries. Forcibly taking away vehicles purchased under hire purchase system is also a strict no. But what exactly does the rule book say? The recovery laws come under the Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. It allows banks to attach and sell defaulters' assets that are pledged with them after giving a 60-day notice. On completion of the notice, a bank has to inform the district magistrate, who in turn enables them to take possession of the property. However, more and more defaulters approach courts to get ex parte stay orders on sale of securities pledged with the banks. And naturally, banks are upset that stays are being granted without giving them an opportunity to present their side. Also, the financial institutions face hurdles taking possession of the defaulter's property. Meanwhile, the court ordered the bank to place on record collection manuals and RBI guidelines for recovery of loans within 4 weeks. The court made it clear that no bank can be permitted to use musclemen for harassing, intimidating and humiliating the loanees.
The High Court has also made it very clear that these banks can go to the court, to the process of law for recovery of their loans. But in no case they are allowed to snatch away the vehicles that have been given on the loan, or to bully a person, to threat a person.
The court also made it clear that in case of default, recourse should be taken to the due process of law instead of taking the law in one's own hands. This may well be music to the ears of harried consumers. Bureau Report, headlines today.
So fear not, the law is on your side. The banks cannot do things without actually sending you a legal notice first. But what can a customer do if he gets such calls, and what action can be taken against the bank? Has any bank actually been taken to task for such overzealous behavior?
Yeah, of course. Like the Supreme Court has already reprimanded them for doing it.
But they don't seem to be listening to the Supreme Court either.
That's again the issue, is that, you know, the customer at the end of the day, it doesn't have that power and the resource to challenge the bank before the court, and they don't have that. You see, there are several cases which come to us every day where the bank has forcefully taken away the vehicle, and today the poor customer is so harassed in terms of getting relief that they are fighting one court from the other court, because the banks invariably are going for appeal when they are losing the case also. And that's what we are all the time saying, that the regulator, the RBI, has to come heavily in terms of even penalizing them very strongly, and which means even, you know, sort of suspending the license to do business. Because if such kind of strong actions are not initiated, the consumer will always be at the losing end.
Alright, so what really needs to be done is that the RBI needs to now step in, or maybe the finance ministry, which always claims to be with the Aam Aadmi, for once it should actually walk the talk and ask these banks to refrain from making such obscene calls and sending them gundas. Only then will these banks stop banking on goons. On that note, we end Center Stage tonight. We'll see you again same time tomorrow with another big story that we'll be putting on Center Stage. Till then, from all of us here, thanks for watching.